think I found a spot over there that's gonna work really well for the time lapse because the clouds right now are just gorgeous. So I wanna make sure to get a nice little time lapse. Also, I probably don't need to be wearing this. It is pretty bright.
Hello friends, welcome to this week's vlog. In this episode, I show you how I capture my time-lapse photography out in Utah. I really hope you enjoy the video.
All right, I'm thinking this time-lapse is gonna be pretty basic. I don't wanna do too much to complicate this. I wanna have just a little bit of ground with the butte on top, and then mostly sky, mostly clouds up above. And I'm not really gonna worry about long exposures because there's nothing really moving in the frame. Gotta make sure to turn autofocus off. So I'm using the, this is the A7R IV. It has a built-in intervalometer app, and since this isn't like a super high priority time lapse for me, just something fun to get, I think I'm gonna try out their intervalometer and see if it works. So this is kind of the composition that I'm working with. Of course, in the final shot, you'll see a little bit more sky, but I like the balance here, and I think as the clouds kind of move through the scene, and they're moving towards us right now, which is such an interesting motion. I love it when clouds are moving away or towards the camera rather than from right to left. I find it a little bit more dynamic when they're heading towards you. As far as interval goes, I'm not really sure. I'll probably just do 2 seconds. Wait, 6 hours? Oh, 16 minutes. I was like, wait a minute, 6 hours? How the hell is this time lapse gonna run for 6 hours? I'm a little tired. I'm always tired in the mornings. To be honest, I'm not a morning person. I don't do quite as well in the mornings. I love shooting stuff like this, but I'm probably on my game more at sunset than I am at sunrise. So the lighting is going to stay fairly consistent, but I'm sure it'll get just a touch brighter. So just in case, to balance that out, I'm going to underexpose the scene just ever so slightly, just in case. The nice thing is we're facing away from the sun, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Actually, on second thought, I changed my mind. I'm going to do a 3-second interval and just let this thing roll. We are rolling. That's a thumbs up for an amazing morning.
So I wanted to talk about this time-lapse real quick because I think this is kind of an important thing to bring up. This is the time-lapse in Adobe Premiere, and I'm really, really happy with the way this came out. I love the cloud patterns here and that light just kind of cascading down the rock. You can see the rock go into shadow and then back out into light again. I mean, this shot is just full of motion, but what's interesting is I did not use any motion-controlled equipment for this, obviously. Now, of course, I could have set up a slider and gotten a little bit of foreground or some movement, but sometimes I don't think it's necessary. Sometimes if you have interesting enough movement in the shot, sometimes it's more powerful to just hold that position and watch the light change on the landscape. I didn't really feel like it was beneficial to use it here. There wasn't anything interesting in the foreground to work with. So this is kind of a tip for anyone getting started with time-lapse. I know you're really excited about the slider system and the 3-axis motion gear. Only use it if it's going to benefit the shot and if the landscape calls for it. If you're somebody who's just getting started shooting time-lapse, I would recommend holding off on buying the extra equipment really learn how to set up a great static shot with just your camera and your tripod. And if you can do that, if you can set up a great static shot where the motion is incredible, then you can start diving into the more advanced gear.
So I think this would be a good spot to set up a motion-controlled time lapse of this foreground here, this kind of craggly rocked foreground, and all these beautiful desert patterns in the background with the clouds moving overhead. I haven't done a 3-axis time lapse in a really long time, so I'm just excited to get the gear out and do another time lapse. So one thing when I'm setting up my time-lapse shots, I always make sure that the legs are completely sturdy and all 3 of the legs on both tripods are on the ground, because there's been 1 or 2 times where one leg has been a little bit loose, and as the time-lapse runs, the slider has started tilting before, so I haven't made that mistake since. So this is the pan and tilt head I'm going to use to do the time lapse. This is going to allow the camera to pan from right to left and also from down to up. And it'll add a really nice effect to the motion controlled time lapse. I've got the A7RIV on there. I'm trying it out with the 16-35 lens. Yeah, we're pretty much set up and ready to go. I need to control the time lapse with an iPhone app. So as I move this joystick, you'll see the pan and the tilt move, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the move. All right, so I'm thinking for this time lapse, I'm going to run probably a pretty quick interval because there's not a lot of motion happening in the clouds. So this is going to be almost a little bit more of a video move, I guess. I'm going to set this to a 2-second interval, just in case the clouds do move a little bit and we want some of that motion. I think I'm at like f5.6, and I'm not doing a super long exposure because there is a little bit of wind. I want to make sure that the wind doesn't knock the camera. So we're actually moving from right to left. So it's moving to the start point right now. And I wanted to be looking down at this beautiful crack formation down below and then start to reveal these awesome spires on the right side. So I think that's going to look really awesome for this time lapse. Probably would have been better to start it earlier, but honestly the light didn't really do much. But I'm shooting it in 8K, so that'll be cool. I'll have this kind of nice motion shot in 8K, high dynamic range. I think what draws me so much to the Utah deserts and Arizona and New Mexico as well is it's really just those patterns and those shapes and those textures. I think to the average person that comes out to a place like this, it may seem a little desolate. To a landscape photographer, it's just a palette of incredible things to see and photograph. It's like a playground almost. It's like this place it's like a playground for photographers, I would say, the Southwest. And I think that's why so many photographers enjoy shooting here. I'm excited to do a little bit more here in the desert and really see what it has to offer.
Well, I certainly learned during the shoot that it's actually pretty hard to set up a vlog about shooting a time-lapse with motion-controlled equipment and actually still get the motion-controlled shot. But even though the outcome of the shot could have been a little bit better with some more cloud movement, I think this is a great example of including some motion in the shot and a landscape that does call for a little bit of that foreground movement and the 3-axis motion. Now the next day I decided to set up another motion-controlled time-lapse of the same scene. This time I switched up the movement a little bit, and here's what I captured. As always, I really appreciate you watching the video, and if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be releasing a bunch of new videos in the future, many of them from Utah. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, helps me out a lot, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.